Welcome to the club!
Hello everyone, and today we are going to discuss the next, almost the last part of the book To Kill a Mockingbird, and chapters from 19 till 24. So next time we're going to discuss the last part, but before last we have some more things to discuss from this part, and of course we're going to start as usual from the summary, and I will start reading the first part. Atticus calls the last witness to the stand, Tom Robinson himself. Tom Robinson tells the truth about what really happened on the day that Mayella Ewell accused him of rape. He admits to helping her with chores around her house and to feeling sorry for her, but he denies any wrongdoing. As he speaks, Dill breaks down in tears. Scout follows him outside, where they meet Dolphus Raymond, a wealthy white man who has chosen to live with a black woman and have mixed-race children. He offers Dill a drink from his flask and explains that he pretends to be a drunk so that people will have an excuse for why he chooses to live the way he does.
Jim is convinced that the jury will acquit Tom Robinson. After the verdict, Jim leaves the courtroom stunned, angry and crying. The African American community loads the Finch family with food for defending Tom, which surprises the children because Atticus didn't win. Atticus tells Jim not to be disheartened because he will appeal Tom's case. Bob Ewell publicly threatens Atticus, which frightens the children. And Alexandra invites Scout to attend her missionary society meeting, and Scout helps Calpurnia and tries to join the ladies in conversation. Atticus interrupts the meeting with the news that Tom Robinson has been killed in an attempted escape. Atticus asks Calpurnia to accompany him to give the news to Tom's wife, Helen.
Okay, so this part has much more events.
Well, it was better this time because I remembered some of the characters and it was easier for me. Well, I remember Atticus' speech from my university because we didn't read this book at university, but we had this abstract with his speech in one of the books, and I do not remember what we did with it. Maybe we translated some parts.
Analyzed.
Yes, maybe we found some stylistic devices and did some analysis. Our teacher told us that it was such a powerful speech and that it's like the key point of the whole book, but I didn't read it. That's why I didn't have a chance to understand why it is so important. I didn't have a lot of emotions because I didn't know the whole story, and it was just an abstract from a book, nothing more. I read it for the third time, and the third time I had the same idea, like, oh, it's the same abstract.
About the importance of the context. When you don't know the context, you can't appreciate this speech, of course, I think.
Yeah.
But when you know the context, I just remember when I was reading this speech, I was on the verge of crying because it is really so powerful. Still, you understand that the verdict is going to be not in his favor, not in favor of Tom Robinson, but you feel how much Atticus does and how much he puts into his work and into his speech, of course, because speech is what makes the jury think about the verdict a lot and might change their mind. Okay, so we can just discuss some parts, I think. So the first short part I would like to mention is: scared of arrest, scared you'd have to face up to what you did? No, sir. Scared I'd have to face up to what I didn't do. So it's just again about the reality that even though he understood that he did nothing, but the scene of what happened looked as if he had done something wrong, and it's really scary that only because of the color of your skin you have to be afraid of a lot of things.
I also have an abstract, so I like this abstract a lot. You know the truth, and the truth is this. Some Negroes lie, some Negroes are immoral, some Negro men are not to be trusted around women, black or white. But this is a truth that applies to the human race and to no particular race of men. There is not a person in this courtroom who has never told a lie, who has never done an immoral thing, and there is no man living who has never looked upon a woman without desire. It's just
universal truth.
Yeah, and it just proves your words, so there is no difference between people. It doesn't matter who you are, what nationality you are, what nation, so it really doesn't matter. It all depends on your personality.
Yes.
How do you look at this world and what do you think is good or bad?
Yes, I understand that all people are full of prejudices because we try to organize our life this way, to, for example, to live it simpler, to understand things easier, because if you know that, for example, many people of some nation did some bad things, for your mind it's easier to put all of the people from that nation as to kind of like bad people. So maybe it helps you to avoid them, not to get in trouble or something like that. But in fact, I agree that you better stop before judging anyone and to really look at what they do and how they live and how they treat you before saying anything, before making any judgments. Come on out under the trees, I said. He'd got you, I expect. We chose the fattest live oak and we sat under it. It was just him I couldn't stand, Dill said. Who? Tom? That old Mr. Gilmer, doing him that way, talking so hateful to him. Dill, that's his job. Why, if we didn't have prosecutors, well, we couldn't have the defense attorneys, I reckon. Dill exhaled patiently. I know all that, Scout. It was the way he said it made me sick. Plain sick. From one of the previous parts, I was surprised by some of the behavior of Dill. This time also, I was surprised how he reacted to all of the things that he even felt sick, how strongly he feels different things that, for example, Scout doesn't feel this way. Sometimes, even though I'm a grown-up person, some situations in life make me feel so helpless that I feel something was unfair to, not even to myself, for example, but to other people. But still, I understand that I can't change the situation. I can only support somehow maybe the person who was treated unfairly. And still, this feeling of helplessness that I can't change the situation makes me really sick, feel sick and unhappy.
Another moment that I like, if there is just one kind of folks, why can't they get along with each other? If they are all alike, why do they go out of their way to despise each other? Scout, I think I'm beginning to understand something. I think I'm beginning to understand why Bo Radley's stayed shut up in the house all this time. It's because he wants to stay inside. I really understand these words and I absolutely agree that like we are all the same, but at the same time we are so different that we can't communicate with each other sometimes. And yes, sometimes you're just so tired of all this hatred and toxic behavior of some people that you really want to just stay in your house and not see other people.
Yes.
And I think that the last abstract that I have here, it's nothing special, I think, but it just surprised me that Aunt Alexandra has some emotions and feelings towards her family. And she said, I can't say I approve of everything he does, Modi, but he's my brother, and I just want to know when this will ever end. Her voice rose. It tears him to pieces. He doesn't show it much, but it tears him to pieces. I've seen him. What else do they want from him, Modi? What else? It's just nice that she has some feelings inside and she cares about her brother and his children. Of course, I think she showed that she cared about them in the previous parts, but she's a little bit strange for this family because she has other view, other perception of life, and that's why she causes so many problems. But here she's so sympathetic and nice. That's why I was surprised, but I was glad with this feeling and this idea.
I just think, yes, she was brought up with the idea that a real lady, should always show a straight face, so to say, and not show any strong emotions. That's why she behaves the way she does. But still, this time, her emotions won over her. Suddenly she spoke. Don't fret, Jem. Things are never as bad as they seem. It was Mrs. Modi's words. You all remember how we discussed her behavior when her house burned down, and it's the same kind of her concept of living the life, that before starting to break down or starting to worry, it's like Etika says that it's not time to start to worry. And the same is that things are never as bad as they seem. Sometimes when you get emotional, you might feel and see everything in really dark colors. But in fact, when you maybe sleep overnight and wake up in the morning and your head is clear and your emotions are kind of calm already, you might look at the situation from a different angle and realize that in fact, yes, the things are not as bad as you thought they were.
I also love this idea a lot. I like the attitude to life. Yeah, I think it really works when you do not overreact, you do not overthink, you just try to stay calm and to give yourself time to find the way out of the problem, of the situation.
And sometimes maybe it's even better not to continue thinking about how bad things are, but just start acting and doing something. I don't know, in Russian there is a saying, глаза боятся, руки делают. That sometimes when, for example, there are too many things ahead of you that you need to do, and you are afraid of these many things. If you start thinking about them, you might never start acting. But if you just think about only one thing you need to do right now, you do it. Then you do again another one thing, and just one after the other, all of the things are going to be done at some point. So just think about what you need to do right now and do it.
Yeah, I think it's a popular strategy in psychology, like baby steps and something like that, because it's mentioned in quite many books.
In quite many books, and not only on psychology, but also on business. For example, about the tasks, they just tell you that if you have a very big task, try to divide it into smaller pieces and do them one by one. I think we can go to discuss the vocabulary. The first word is thin-hided, thin-skinned, or sensitive or unimpaired. And the abstract is: I know what you mean, boy, said a voice behind us. We thought it came from the tree trunk, but it belonged to Mr. Dolphus Raymond. He peered around the trunk at us. You aren't thin-hided. It just makes you sick, doesn't it?
So my first phrase is look daggers at someone. It means to look angrily at someone. Judge Taylor looked daggers at Atticus, as if daring him to speak, but Atticus had ducked his head and was laughing into his lap.
A tacit consent. Tacit means the same as silent, and tacit consent is simply consent given without words. Jem went in grinning, and Calpurnia nodded tacit consent to having Dill into supper.
My next phrase is to fight tooth and nail. It means to try very hard to get something you want. This phrase was mentioned 2 times actually. So in chapter 18 it was you say you fought him off as hard as you could. Fought him tooth and nail, asked Mr. Gilmer. And the second time it was in chapter 23. He said the other thing about them was once you earned their respect, they were for you tooth and nail.
My next one is going to be a peace bond. A peace bond is a court order to keep the peace and be on good behavior for a period of time. This essentially means that the person must not be charged with a criminal offense. Peace bonds often have other conditions too, such as not having any weapons or staying away from a person or place. And the abstract is: Jem came to the point. Mr. Ewell, what has happened? Nothing's happened. We're scared for you, and we think you ought to do something about him. Atticus smiled wryly. Do what? Put him under a peace bond?
And I have the last word. This is squalor. It is an extremely dirty and unpleasant conditions. You live in a Christian home with Christian folks in a Christian town. Out there in J. Grimes Everett's land, there is nothing but sin and squalor.
My last one is going to have 2 phrases. The first phrase is do away with, which means remove or put an end to something. And the second word is adamant. If someone is adamant about something, they are determined not to change their mind about it. And the sentence is: then it all goes back to the jury then. We ought to do away with the juries. Jem was adamant. I think we're done with the vocabulary. Anything else to add about this part?
I think no.
No. Thanks for watching this episode. Next time we're going to discuss the last part of this book, so please look forward to it. All the contacts to our Telegram chat we're going to leave in the description below. We are always happy to talk to you there and also read your comments. So thanks for watching and live long.
And remember that the things are never as bad as they seem.
Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.
He offers Dill a drink from
And you know the I'm sorry.
We chose the fattest doing him that away. Чё? Why? Да что такое, у меня вообще ничего не получается с этим куском. And yes.
Okay.
Deep stuff.
Yeah. Scout, I think I'm beginning to understand something.
Иди сюда. Иди сюда.
You're beginning to understand something as well. Scout, I think I'm beginning to understand something. Это невозможно.
Она хочет, чтобы на нее обращали внимание, понимаешь? And again, I think you so yes, that's the last for